Good morning, and welcome to First Universalist Church of Rochester, where we are boldly going where no person has gone before. Perhaps this morning. Beautifully done, Charlie. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. What a beautiful vision that Gene Roddenberry painted of a diverse world, of different races and different species coming together for intergalactic cooperation. Thank you, Charlie, for that this morning. Whew, well, there's some lights on now. Can you see me now? Welcome to the First Universalist Church of Rochester, where we are called to nurture the spirit and to serve the community. Whoever you are welcome here. Wherever you come from, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, you are welcome here. And whether you feel you have found a sense of purpose in your life, or you are still seeking to find yourself somewhere in between, you are welcome here. All of you are welcome here. It is good to be together this morning. Every Sunday when we gather, we acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, keepers of the Western Door and part of the Haudenosaunee people, on whose ancestral and present-day lands First Universalist now stands. This morning, we are worshiping in a new way. Can you believe we've been doing this? This is our second Sunday back doing this piece about online worshiping and in person together. We are choosing to worship in person, vaccinated and masked with social distance. This might be a good time to check on whether or not you have your mask on correctly and whether or not you're maintaining good distance from others. If you are here for the first time this morning, or if you are coming back, we especially welcome you. Thank you for making it here to this worshiping community. We have a visitors form that can be found in the chat for our folks online and can be found in your order of service for folks here in person. We invite you to please fill out that form so we can offer you a welcome beyond this worship service. Before we take a moment to turn to our neighbor, let us please in this space take a moment to turn towards our camera, turn towards our piano over there, towards Emma, and to wave and greet our online worshiping community. Good morning. We are so glad y'all are with us this morning. It is good to be together as one community. If you are online, please pop into the chat to offer a greeting. And if you're here at First Universalist, let us just take a moment now to turn to our neighbor and to offer a greeting one another. Shall we? Oh, dear ones, it is so hard to pull you away from greeting each other and to pull you all away online from offering a greeting. But let us please sing together hymn number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire.
Yesterday morning, I woke up thinking about the people of Ukraine, whom I'd seen on television preparing for the Russian invasion. They seemed so vulnerable and so brave. My heart just ached for them. And also, I felt helpless, something that I've been feeling a lot lately. So I made myself get dressed and go outside and shovel the driveway and the sidewalk. It felt good to do something useful. But shoveling snow doesn't help Ukraine or create racial justice or stop global warming. Nor does it answer the big question, what can I do that matters? I've been thinking of these words that Dr. Taqiyya Nur Amin shared in the Sunday of Love service that many of us watched on February 13th online. Dr. Amin said, "I really believe that in every moment, life is giving us an invitation, and that doing the loving and life-affirming thing is always the answer when you don't know what to do. Even if you are tired or feeling frustrated or feeling unsure, the invitation to participate in a manner that is about living out values, living our values, living love and justice is still there, no matter what else is going on." Here at First Universalist, as we meet in this sacred hour, may we open our hearts to hear life's invitations and find the courage to respond. In the name of the love that makes us one, come, let us worship together. As Brian Mooney lights our chalice at First Universalist Church, and as you light a chalice in your home, will you join me in saying our chalice words in unison? May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. Please join me in our affirmation of faith, followed by our doxology. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is a sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity and fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the source and meaning of life, thus to be covenant with each other and with all. We live our values in the world is the way we choose to share our resources, including our time, energy, love, and money. Everything we do here at First Universalist depends on your support. Your generosity has made it possible for us to adapt to new challenges, including the technology that makes it possible for us to worship together while some of us are here in the sanctuary and some of us are in our own homes in Rochester and around the world. You are invited to bring your offering to the offering boxes in the front and back of the sanctuary before or after the service or during the offertory. If you would like to give online, please scan the QR code if you are here in the sanctuary. On Zoom, you can click the link in the chat to give to First Universalist Church. You can also feel free to send a check to the church. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
This morning, I have a story for you all, and it's a story about a bear, and a bear who wants to sing. It's a story by Carrie Fagan, illustrated by Dina Seiferling, and I want to just invite us, as we're listening to this story, to pay attention to who in the story you relate to. Who are the characters in the story that you yourself relate to? And I believe we have some images from the story to get to share. Good, thank goodness. One of the great things about having the screen in the sanctuary, we get to share some of the pictures a little bit bigger than we might have been able to see them. If folks want to see the pictures more closely, I also have a copy of the book up here. If folks want to take a look after the service. So Bear Wants to Sing by Carrie Fagan. A bear was taking a walk. He saw something in the grass. He sniffed it. He licked it. He picked it up and plucked it. It made a nice sound. Clink. The bear turned around, eager to show somebody. A mouse was sitting on the stump, washing his tail. Look, said the bear. I want to sing my song. The mouse crossed his leg, put his paws in his lap. I'm all ears, he said. Just then a crow landed beside them. What's going on here? I'm a musician, said the bear, and I'm going to sing my song. The crow stepped on something. It made a delicious rattle. A tambourine, said the crow. Let me sing first. And before the bear could protest, the crow began to strike the instrument with her foot. Never mind your jay, your robin, or your owl, your chickadee or grouse, or any kind of fowl. Birds of a feather up high and low, none are as fine as the clever crow. That's a good song, the bear said grumpily. Pretty good, said the mouse. Now let's hear yours, bear. A snake came slithering through the grass. What are you doing? I'm a musician, said the bear. I have a song to sing and I'm going to sing it. Wait, what is this? Asked the snake. She parted the grass to reveal a small drum. She thumped on the drum with her tail and began to sing. The ground's a lovely place, you know, to slink and slither to and fro, but even better is to creep under a rock for a nice long sleep. Said the bear. That's a good song too. Go ahead, said the mouse. It was your turn before and it's your turn now. Blatch! They all turned to see a tortoise nearby. He was standing on a rock and holding a horn. Look what I found! What a noise this makes! Now I can play and sing! Really, tortoise, said the mouse, you ought to wait your turn. But the tortoise had already begun. Well, there's a well-known saying, blat, and it comes like this. There's simply no place, blat, like home. Has his own cozy place wherever he happens to roam. A fox emerged from the bushes. I've been listening to you all, she said. Most impressive indeed. I suggest that we start a band. We could go to town and play on stage. I'll be your manager. A band, called the crow. We'll be famous, hissed the snake. Count me in, wheezed the tortoise. I believe you're getting ahead of yourself, said the mouse. Bear has not sung his song yet. I don't feel like it anymore, said Bear. Please do, said the tortoise. Yes, said the fox. The band needs another song. Well, said the bear, blushing a little, if you insist. He twitched his nose, strumming his instrument, and opened his mouth. I'm a bear, 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 I'm a bear. The bear gave one last strum. What do you think? He asked. Well, said the crow, it certainly gets to the point. And it's well, let me think, said the tortoise, it's easy to remember. Very easy, agreed the snake. The bear sighed heavily. He didn't like it. He put down the instrument and lumbered off. Through the grass went the bear. Over a hill, between some trees, and down to the river. The mouse followed. The bear waded into the water. "Where are you going?" asked the mouse. "Far away," said the bear. "For how long?" "Forever. Well, almost forever." The bear floated on his back. The mouse crouched down, hopped into the air, and landed on the bear. They floated along, the mouse sitting on the bear's belly. "I like your song," said the mouse. "You do?" asked the bear. "Why?" "Because it is just like you." The mouse lay down on the bear's belly. As the bear breathed, the mouse went up and down. "I'm a bear," sang the mouse quietly. "I'm a bear, I'm a bear, I'm a bear." The bear smiled. "I'm a mouse," he sang. "I'm a mouse, I'm a mouse, I'm a mouse." The mouse chuckled. The two of them sang together, looking up at the clouds as they floated down the river. And therein ends our story this morning. We want to lift up time this morning. If our children would like to make their ways upstairs, to get to go upstairs to enjoy their programming this morning, with deep gratitude to Heather for watching over them and being with them. Thank you so much this morning, Heather, for doing that. And dear ones, take care. We are heading into a time of joys and sorrows in our service. I want to invite you into this reverent time, as it is important for us to share the joys and the sorrows of our gathered community. If you'd like, you can place a hand over your heart to listen from a heart-centered place. We know we have been holding a lot this week together. I know Bridget's not alone in waking up in the morning thinking of the Ukraine, and I know we're holding a lot. So as we place stones into a bowl, I will read aloud the joys and the sorrows of our gathered community. And for folks online, you are still invited to please share your joys and sorrows in the chat, that we may hear from you too. This morning we share a sorrow from Connie Volk. I am holding in my heart relatives and friends in the Netherlands and Germany who find the Russian invasion of the Ukraine on their doorstep. We drop a stone of sorrow from both Johanna Connolly and Bridget Watts, who I think speak for us all, for our siblings suffering in Ukraine. Bridget lifts up that the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee on its website lists several humanitarian organizations we can donate to that are responding directly to. It is so good to know our movement is doing that work. We lift up this morning a sorrow from Johanna Connolly. Peter Nilsson, husband of my best friend Joni, died on the 22nd. He was very active in the United Church of Christ. A sorrow from Beth Ayers this morning. Our elderly neighbors 2 doors from us both died following hospitalization for COVID this week. A sorrow from Trish Gallagher. My mom died on January 20th at age 97, and my mother-in-law died 5 days later at age 94. Both died somewhat unexpectedly, but relatively peacefully after full lives. They are missed. It is disorienting. We lift up a final joy or sorrow submitted anonymously. We miss Brock. Thanks to all helping to fill his shoes. It could have been from me. Thank you all for helping to fill his shoes so beautifully this morning. We will drop one stone into the bowl to represent all of the joys shared by our online community. And we will drop another stone for the sorrows shared in the chat by our online community. And we will drop one final stone into this bowl to represent all of the joys and the sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. May all be held in the heart of love. This morning, as we do every Sunday, light candle to acknowledge that we are a community affected by the grief, the loss, the fear, and the hope of living through a pandemic. May this white candle's flame hold our experiences around this horrific disease. And may its light be a beacon of hope and a reminder that we are not alone. Dear ones, I want to invite you this morning into a time of prayer and meditation with me. So, place your feet firmly on the ground if your feet can reach to the ground. Get yourself centered in your seat. Allow the weight of let yourself just rest into this moment. I can feel the tension in my body sometimes from sitting on the edge of my seat in times like these. I really want to invite us to sit back into our seats, to get off of the edge of our seats just for a second, to lean into spirit this morning. Spirit of peace, beloved divine, love that rests at the center of our being. This has been a week of fear, a week of worry, as our hearts and eyes have turned towards the Ukraine, towards Russia. All of us here, all of us have experienced wars during our lifetimes. And we know the harm, the trauma, the lives lost, the many stolen. It is terrifying to feel so powerless in the face of war, of violence in this scale and at this level. We fear for the future of our country. We fear for the future of the young generations present in this room and present in our hearts. We fear for the people of the Ukraine and what this will mean for families, for their homes, for the suffering that is already happening, and for the suffering still to come. We fear for those in Russia, demonstrating at great risk. We take a moment now to lift up the fears of our hearts this morning, to reflect honestly, to remember our humanity, to acknowledge that war is terrifying, and a numbness, that terror and that fear will harden our hearts. Just divine love to live through these moments with hearts unguarded. Help us to cry the tears. Help us to give voice to our experience. Help the people we are not able to help. Keep the prayers of our hearts before us. Let the prayer peace. Peace. We wish this day and every day for a world without warfare, for a world where all are free from threats of violence, for a world where children do not have to grow up under the threat of annihilation and over-militarization. Hear our prayers this morning as we continue to hold them in our hearts. in shared silence, lifting the troubles and the hopes of our hearts up in this space with these people on this day together. Spirit, join us in the silence. Amen. Blessed be. May it be so. Our hymn of conscience this morning is hymn number 352, Find a Stillness. You're invited to sing it from wherever you are seated. Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will.
It was the end of a hectic day and the start of the kind of evening familiar to anyone who's juggling work and young children. Time is the enemy, relentless, streaming past, leaving in its wake an endless clutter of unfinished tasks. Like a flustered hen in a barnyard, I clucked and fretted as I hustled my children along through homework, dinner, bath time, and bedtime stories, always trying to get things to move a little faster against the ticking clock. With the kids finally in bed a half hour later than I'd aimed for, I fussed my way out the door to give the dog her walk, bustling along as my fretful mind danced through a dozen other still unfinished chores. I was halfway down the driveway before I glanced up. My jaw dropped. There before me, the whole spread of the Milky Way splintered out across the clear black sky. Stars behind stars, a deep pool of space. I finally stood still, washed in starlight that had been traveling toward me for millions of years. I was brought to my senses and very nearly brought to my knees. Because bedtime had been late, my children were still awake. To their delighted surprise, the mother hen reappeared in their bedroom doorways, no longer clucking, and carried them, one at a time, pajamas and all, out into the crisp winter air to ancient light. Maybe this is all we can bear of the cosmic perspective on this time, this little glimpse of eternity that lets us see our small lives connected to everything else on so massive a scale. My awe at the immensity revealed in a clear night sky doesn't leave me feeling diminished or irrelevant. Instead, it reminds me that if we can be present exactly in the moment we are living, we can step outside of time altogether. We live immersed in that eternity. We just forget until something like starlight wakes us up to it again.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you for reading our reading this morning. This morning, what we are doing here this morning could seem really trivial in the face of a war that our country is entering. What do the theme of Star Trek, the story about a bear, this bathing in starlight, what do these have to say to what we are going through right now? What does it mean to talk about living life with purpose, even in the midst of everything going on in our country and in our world? What does it really mean for us to live lives of purpose in the midst of everything happening? A pandemic, a war, conflict. What does it mean to live life with purpose? Why would we explore this morning? I want to share with you a little bit about the ways that we can live with purpose even in the midst of everything going on in our country and in our world. And I want to say this morning that this impending war with the Ukraine is something we are going to talk about, but I want to say that this does not get the last word today, this Sunday. I want to say that being able to explore meaning and purpose for those living in the midst of this war must be really difficult, yet still important. And for us to do this, deeply important. When I was thinking about what to say to you all this morning, I wanted to revisit one of our theologians who actually writes about war. Surprisingly, our Unitarian and Universalist ancestors were quite silent on this issue, here and there. James Luther Adams, during and after World War II, wrote often about how liberal Protestant theology had nothing to say about warfare and evil, how we remained silent. And he also worked very hard to give us language to speak, to give us theological language in which to get to sort of view war and to view the aftermath. What I know this morning is we cannot remain silent. What I know today is that we are all likely overwhelmed. And in the midst of our overwhelm, I'm really going to invite you to not remain silent. Because I think actually the three systems that are at play right now deeply benefit from our silence. The systems of warfare, capitalism, and militarism. These are systems that create a particular purpose for a country and a community, and by extension, its people. If you think about it with capitalism, right? We are serving wealth, greed, the overserved. Militarism, keeping ourselves safe through fighting others. Warfare, keeping ourselves safe through killing others. People in these systems are seen as working units. Collateral damage, literal shields, nameless, faceless people. In these systems, people become disposable. In these systems, we become disposable. And we can even begin to believe in the disposability of an entire culture, of an entire people, as part of what will keep those of us and those we see like us, our partners, safe and still served. If the people of the Ukraine are disposable, so are we. If the people who immigrate to this country are disposed of through deportation and detention, we too are disposable. If the people living out in our alcove are disposable, so are we. So many war veterans have sacrificed lives as well as mental health. So many live with addiction because war destroys both those who live and those who die. And it has a deep effect on those of us just watching, just observing. There's been a term that's been thrown around a bit to describe this. It's called moral injury. Is anyone familiar with this term, folks? Yeah? Oh, our psychiatrists are familiar with it, yes, and some of our ministry friends. Here we go. So moral imagery, the damage done to one's conscience or moral compass when that person perpetrates, witnesses, fails to prevent acts that transgress one's own moral beliefs, values, or ethical codes of conduct. It refers to the damage caused by viewing a pandemic. It refers to the damage caused by watching a war happening, feeling helpless about it. Now, this morning, I want to say that Reverend A.J. Van Tyne is preaching about this at First Unitarian, so I won't go far into it, and will invite us to watch that video later. But I do want us to think about ways that we are ourselves experiencing moral injury following this pandemic and witnessing to the attacks of the Ukraine. One of the major effects of this is this feeling of powerlessness, maybe even purposelessness, restlessness, listlessness. Have you felt it? I feel it. It's like this under the skin. What can I do about this? It irritates me. And when I think about it, these systems of warfare, capitalism, militarism, these are systems that often keep us and keep me from taking a moment to bathe in starlight, from remembering where I fit into the world. In these systems and the purpose they attempt to dictate to all of us about how our lives are supposed to be, this system and the purposes that are dictated to us keep us from singing out when we have a song to share, or from showing when I have been hurt by a friend, or when even dealing with some of just the everyday pieces of life, the exhaustion, the difficulty in this time period. Instead, those systems say, get over it. Keep moving forward. Tough it out. On to the next thing. Keep working if you're sick. Keep working to prove your worth in the world. Stay busy. Stay productive. Are you doing anything? Where is the space for spirit in all of that? Where is the space to dream of what a purposeful and fulfilling life looks like? To our story this morning, I can relate deeply to Bear's desire to sing one's own song, to live into purpose, and to not always be met with kindness or even success. To sometimes feel as if I'm watching my life flow by without much choice in how things go or in whose turn it is. I wonder if you too have felt some of this in these days. Moments when it feels like life is just going by, when it doesn't feel like you have much agency or choice. What I also loved in this story this morning was the little mouse and their way of accompanying, their offering encouragement, singing along, adapting the song for yourself. Dear ones, this time period has put me in touch so much with one of the deeper purposes in our life, which I think is around relationship. We find purpose and meaning in our lives in being in relationship. What has it meant to have the absence of in-person connection with people? What has that meant for my purpose in the world, for your purpose in the world? As Brené Brown tells us, we are hardwired for connection, for relationship. It's at the center of so much that we do. In James Luther Adams' piece, The Evolution of My Social Concern, he writes, and I'm going to say he's not very quotable, so you'll just, but let me repeal reticence so far as to say that the experience of Nazism induced a kind of conversion. I recall a conversation with the German psychiatrist and philosopher Karl Jess home one day in Heidelberg in 1936. I asked him what he deemed to be the contemporary significance of liberal Christianity. He replied with unwanted vehemence, religious liberalism has no significance. It has zwang, no costing commitment. I pressed upon myself the question, thinking back, this is back in the 30s, if fascism should arrive in the States, what in your past performance would constitute a pattern or framework of resistance? I could give only a feeble answer to the question. My principal political activities had been reading the newspaper and voting. I had preached sermons on the Depression or in defense of strikers. Occasionally, I uttered protest against censorship in Boston, but I had no adequate conception of citizenship participation. He continues, the personal confessional seminary I attended in Eberfeld occupied an abandoned Masonic building. The order was forbidden to hold meetings. Repeatedly, I heard anti-Nazis say, if only 1,000 of us in the late 20s had combined in heroic resistance, we could have stopped Hitler. I noticed the stubborn resistance of the Jehovah's Witness. I observed also the lack of religious pluralism in a country that had no significant nonconformist movement in the churches. Gradually, I came to the conviction that a decisive institution of the viable democratic society is the voluntary association as a medium for the assumption of civic responsibility. Voluntary association as a medium of the assumption for civic responsibility. It is one of my deepest wishes in Unitarian Universalism that he was just a little bit more quotable, because his ideas are brilliant and he's just so wordy. Yet, He's so good. Voluntary association became JLA's thing, became James Luther Adams' sing. Our choosing where to be in relationship, coming out of our own free will and honoring the community and its power. Choosing which communities we partner with, where to literally show up with our bodies and hearts and minds. We are hardwired for connection. Who are we showing up with? How are we showing up with them? What does this mean for our living with purpose? This time really feels like it has been purpose clarifying. I don't know if you've been experiencing this, but I think in the face of so much death and trauma and the difficulties of this time, it's really brought forward this question: how do I want to live my life? Who am I willing to risk connecting with? How do I want to be in maybe a different or deeper connection with folks than I was before? Whose am I? I know that for me, our church has never felt more important as a site of connection, as a space to be reminded to sing or play our own songs, to look up at the stars, and to support those we love, even when it feels as if the world is falling apart, especially when it feels as if the world feels like friendships and family connections have never been so important. Knowing what life looks like with the absence of these connections has helped many of us to value them more. The need for a place to put it all in perspective, especially at the beginning of times like these where war is raging, where countries are being attacked again. To view our own lives significant, even in the face of these monstrous systems that are designed to keep us feeling powerless and sometimes purposeless. We choose to be here because we want to live lives of purpose and meaning. Spirituality at its essence is about learning to live life, learning to be present in our own lives, learning to be present to others. As you go forward into this week, my wish for you is to know who you are, to know how you are connected to this world. My wish for you, have friends like Mouse to support you, and to take a moment to just look towards the stars. May you know a place in this world where you fit. And may we continue to grow and heal in this community together. Amen. Blessed be, may it be so. Our final hymn this morning is a hymn to hold our hearts. Hymn number 108, My Life Flows On. Let us please sing together. Please rise in body or in spirit. Let us join hearts and voices in singing this song.
was, how can we keep from staying in times like these?
Please remain standing as we extinguish our chalice flame this morning. Words printed in your order of service and on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. As we close our service this morning, I'll invite you to hand over your heart, to look around the room here in person, and if you are joining us online, to turn to gallery view and look upon the faces of those here with you. Let us look around and be grateful for each and every person here today, for all of our folks joining us online that we can actually see on the screen this morning. Thank you, Emma. You are the literal best. It is so good to see all of you, actually. Oh my God, I feel like we're here. We're here together. Dear ones, as you go forth this morning, please know that purpose, meaningful life can be found in relationship. Please know that these are the relationships that will hold us and sustain us in this day and in the days to come. Please keep singing. Please keep bathing in starlight. Please keep taking a moment to breathe. We need you. We need you to do that work. We need you to take that break. Please know that you are loved, and go forth this morning and be that to whomever you need. Amen. Blessed be. Thank you. Our postlude this morning may seem a little bit out of step. It's Shiny Happy People by REM. But Charlie shared some words about our postlude this morning that I really want to share with you all. Our postlude is actually a protest song. It was written in 1991 by Michael Stipe, one of the world's most famous queer musicians. Shout out Michael Stipe, thank you for that one. He was the lead singer of the band REM at the time. He was struck by the Chinese government's propaganda that covered up the violence of the Tiananmen Square as the government talked about shiny, happy people holding hands. Right, that lands. So he placed at the center of this song. Please feel free to join Lisa and Kitty in the prepare for a new round of government propaganda with the war in the Ukraine. Thanks for taking us home on that one, Charlie. Shiny Happy People by REM.